Volkswagen Golf Mark IV, and it's a beautiful day out there to replace the alternator. This car has 1.9 TDI engine, so let's have a look what's going on in there. Here we go. The auxiliary valve that spins your alternator, power steering and AC compressor is located over here. And what we are going to do now is jack up the car and remove all the covers. To remove top cover, pry out these plastic bits, which will reveal 10mm nuts, 3 of them, and just take it out. So with all bolts out, let's take the dipstick out. Mind there is another clip holding to this pipe, so we can remove engine cover now. Let's put dipstick back in so nothing gets in there. You can see the alternator in here. It's held to the bracket by 2 bolts and it's pretty shiny. It's been replaced recently, but I'm still going to show you how to replace it. We are going to access it from the bottom, so I'm going to jack up the car, remove the bottom covers and the auxiliary belt. So I jacked up the car. Don't use jack on its own, definitely use stands, because jack on its own is not safe. As you can see, I have 2 jack stands over there. I've put them on a subframe. This car appears to be missing undercover, which will make my job easy. If you still have your undercover on, it's pretty simple to remove. There will be like a plastic cover with screws on the side, so remove those screws and remove the cover. And then you'll have to remove another cover over here where the belt is. This car is missing another cover as well, but it has got still similar cover on that side. This one here. So as I said, if your car is tidy and not missing any undercovers, remove undercover similar to this plastic protection on the other side. We don't have it on this car, so I'm going to give you a better view what it's held on. Side cover, also known as a side skirt, is held by 2 funny looking nuts. You see, this is like a snowflake, rusty one. So to remove it, you need to unscrew it. Use some pliers or anything that you can. I'm not sure if there is a specific tool for that. If you do know, please comment. But the way to remove it is just unscrew it, and when you put it back, you don't have to screw it on. It pops on. It goes like, and then you just pop it on, because this finger is pointing down now, so you need to unscrew it, unless you're really strong and you want to rip it off. So there is another one just over here, and we'll have another, sorry my shaking hands, T25. So remove this plastic from that side. Now with all these covers removed, we have access to bottom assembly of our auxiliary belt, aka serpentine belt, and this is our AC compressor. To get access to the alternator, we need to remove the AC compressor first, and before anything we need to remove the belt. So this is our auxiliary belt view from the bottom. Working under the car, make sure you wear glasses not to damage your eyes. So this shiny bit is a tensioner for auxiliary belt. It has a spring and it gives tension to the belt so it doesn't slip off. By the way, I have a video about replacement of that tensioner if you have a faulty one. To remove the belt, we need to apply 16mm spanner on the top of this bit. Unfortunately, there's not enough space for ratchet or brake bar. It's pretty strong spring. You can try to do it with the spanner on its own. I think I can do it. I've done it before, but for easier removal, you can put 16mm spanner on the top of it put it facing towards the ground, because once you release it, it goes that way, so it's easier to remove spanners. Then take another spanner and then just turn it clockwise to remove the belt. You see there's no tension. And now slowly, mind your fingers, carefully, don't break anything. Simply take it off. Now your belt is off. Take it off all pulleys, one from the top, and let's move on. One more thing I forgot to mention here is when you're going to refit the same belt, I'm going to refit this one because it's quite good condition. It's kind of important to fit it so it spins same way. It goes clockwise. You can either put the little arrow here or with a chalk, or it always has some letters, numbers, and you just remember which way they are facing. So these letters bottom go away from the engine, so we're gonna refit it the same way. And before we do anything, let's disconnect the battery. It's enough to disconnect negative lead, plus minus, so we're gonna take 10mm spanner and loosen this nut. Take the lead off, and so it doesn't spark, doesn't come back, secure it somehow, somewhere. So now let's go back under the car and disconnect the electric connector for the AC compressor. If necessary, help yourself with a screwdriver. All you need to do is just take it off two plastic hooks here. Next thing we need to do is to remove the AC compressor because it's on the way, and it's held on two long 16mm bolts. That's one, and here's the other one. So let's remove these bolts. So let's take 16mm socket and undo these bolts. And the other one. That's one. Appear to be very easy to remove. You see the compressor is moving now, so let's remove the second bolt. The other bolt also you can move by hand, but keep holding the compressor because this is the only bolt that holds the compressor currently. There we go, hold the compressor, second bolt is out, and now you can carefully bring it down. I have it on the ground. If your car is ramped up really high, it is okay to keep it hanging on these pipes, as long as you don't pull it hard, don't twist it, just be careful with it. Just put it aside. Now let's go back to the top and disconnect the electric connections for the alternator, which will be this connector here and then this nut here that holds the wire. First disconnect this connector, standard Volkswagen, just push this and then it comes off. Put the screwdriver in here and then it comes off. Then we take 13mm socket and disconnect the wire. Make sure while you're doing this battery is disconnected. And now you can take this wire off. As you can see, there will be another little nut here that holds wire to the bracket. This car is missing, this nut. See this little thing? So it's just another thing that holds the wire. So just remove this wire now. Take it out of the way. Similar to AC compressor, alternator is held by two bolts as well. One bolt is pretty easy accessible. On the top of another one we have this tensioner, so we're gonna remove it. Removing these two bolts. As you can see, three 13mm bolts, and remove the tensioner. So we take our 13mm socket and remove these three bolts. Once you get them loose, you can remove them by hand. This is what they look like. With the last bolt out, you can carefully put the tensioner, and you can take it from the bottom like that. That's our tensioner, which is out. Now with the tensioner out of the way, you can see these two bolts that hold alternator. Two 13mm bolts. I find it easier to remove them from the bottom. That's one, that's two. Two bolts. Simply remove these bolts. 13mm. Same story. Once you got them loose, you can remove them by hand. There we go. And another one. Don't lose them, put them somewhere safe. Even with two bolts out, it still sits pretty tight. It's a friction fit, so you might want to use some strong screwdriver or a bar like this, and you just take it out. Now it's loose. The reason the alternator doesn't want to come out is because it sticks into this bad boy, power steering pump. It has a bit that goes down there, and so you can't take alternator out. So what we are going to do now is remove the power steering pump. It's held on three bolts on one side and one bolt on this side. So to get access to these bolts, we will need to remove the pulley, which is held on few hex Allen bolts. So we take our 6mm hex Allen key and undo those three bolts. As getting to this point, I would recommend, knowing that you need to undo these three bolts, do it with the belt on, so you have some counter hold, but it's not a problem now, so we can use anything. The way I am going to counter hold it is just take another hex Allen and stick into this one of these holes and just hold it. Use pliers if you want, and then we break these bolts loose. Take these bolts out. That's what they look like. Don't lose them. And with all bolts out, we just simply wiggle this pulley out. There we go. Now without the pulley we can take these bolts out that hold the power steering pump. Three on this side, 1, 2 and 3 down there, and one here. They are 13mm bolts, so we take our 13mm socket and just remove these bolts. With 3 bolts out on this side, remove this bolt on the other side, the last one. So with the last bolt out, take our old friend pry bar, because it's also friction fit, and just move this pump away. There we go. Now it's loose. Now what we want to do is take it a little bit away from the alternator, and now we can remove this alternator. There we go. Our alternator is loose now. Probably it's easier to take it down from the bottom. There's too many pipes in here. So now we can come from the bottom and move these wires away and pipes, and wiggle this alternator down here. Make sure you don't drop it on your head. Keep turning it so it does come out. It's a little bit of a wiggle. There are 2 pipes, this one and that one. Keep turning it. Imagine game of Tetris. Turn it the way it's happy to come out, and there it is. So this is how you take the alternator out. The sun came out, alternator is out, happy days. Now you can go and get yourself new one. More likely it will be refurbished if you buy it from dealership even. So I believe there can be few reasons why you want to, once you're watching this video, there can be few reasons why you want to take it out. And one of the reasons it can be it stopped charging. So there is a quite easy fix for common problem for the alternator if it stopped charging. There's a link below this video that leads to my other video that shows how to replace brushes. Normally if your alternator is not charging, brushes worn out. So quick video, there's a link in the video description, just follow that and have a look. It probably is possible, it's quite easy access to here, so it's possible without change the brushes without the taking alternator out. The other reason you want to replace your alternator is bad bearings either side. There are plenty of videos on the internet how to replace bearings, so I'm not gonna do that. It's pretty new alternator, I don't want to mess with it. Pulley can be replaced with the alternator being on there. So yeah, as I said, this is a pretty new alternator. I'm gonna put it back in. Now you know how to take it out. Let's put it back in. One quick advice I can give you before you put alternator back in. You see these bushings with the thread? Because it's friction fit, it just fits your bracket that holds the alternator. So if you can just push them away a little bit, thread will bring them back anyway. While you're doing this, make sure you don't damage any plastics here. Alternator stays on 2 bolts on this ones, and so with a bit of a struggle I moved these bushings away, so now we can easier fit this alternator. When you buy a new or refurbished alternator, they normally come with these bushings moved away, so you won't have to struggle. Put it same way as you took it out. By the way, this is the bit where we are going to put the wire, the other bit of the wire that holds the wire, because someone who fitted the new alternator, they didn't bother to do that. We'll do it properly. Try not to drop it on your head, it's heavy, so make sure you put it right. There we go. It is a bit of a wiggle. Don't rush. Once you got it in on the bracket, you can go up there and correct it from the top. Okay. And just put it back where it belongs. Now with the alternator back on its place, we can insert bolts. You see it's moving quite freely because we push those bushings out. Insert the bolts and then tighten them. For tightening torques, see my website, link below the video, leads to the description, what have I done, images, diagrams, diagram of auxiliary belt, so it's all there. Before you do it yourself, have a look and you can print it out for yourself. And another one. Now we can reconnect the wire. Also secure it here. Put the connector back on. 13mm nut goes on the top. And little nut that holds the wire. A bit better view for you. 13mm nut, 8mm little securing nut that holds the wire that wasn't holding it when we removed the alternator, and the connector. Simple. Now we need to put the power steering back in, and we need to move this bushing away a little bit, so because it's a friction fit as well, so we need to push away. It's a bit old and rusty, so we're gonna lubricate it with WD-40, let it soak in, and then gently tap it to move it away. So sometime later, let it soak in, and I'm using breaker bar and hammer, so with gentle taps, let's move this away. Now when there's nothing on the way, you can easily insert your power steering palm. As you can see, it moves freely around here. The bolt will bring that bushing back for the friction fit. Make sure you start it with your hand so you don't break the thread. With all 4 bolts in and tightened now, we can connect our pulley. Let's go and find it. Here it is. My advice, anything you take off the car, keep the bolts inside where they belong so you don't lose them. So let's install this pulley back on. These little bolts, do them tight enough so they can hold pulley straight, so you can put the belt on. When you put the belt on, you can tighten them more because belt will hold the pulley. Now let's put tensioner back in. Easiest is from the bottom because there's too much stuff on the top. Put it from the bottom and then insert these bolts from the top. When you put the tensioner in, just to show you, there are 2 holes, so you can turn with 16mm spanner, so these holes match, and you can put the pin in so it stays detention. That's easier to put belt that way. If you don't have a pin, don't worry about it, you just turn it with the spanner, put all around last wheel accordingly to diagram on my website, link below the video. So yeah, let's put the tensioner back on. Pass it from the bottom, hold it from the top, and then insert the bolt. With the tensioner in and bolts tightened, we can put compressor back on. Now let's fit the belt. accordingly to diagram, also remembering the way we took off. These little letters, numbers, they go away from the engine, so we're gonna fit it the same way. Now with the belt fitted around all pulleys correctly, I have a pin in, that's why there is no tension. If you don't have a pin, don't worry about it, just apply 16mm spanner before you put the belt around last pulley, and then put it around last pulley and slowly release it. I'm gonna just release it now. Apply some pressure to take the pin out. Before you release, check, double check, triple check that it belt sits around all pulleys nice. This is what you do without the pin, you see, and you just put it back on and slowly release the belt. So now all we have to do is reconnect compressor connector, then tighten those power steering bolts on the pulley, put the covers back on. Simple, job done. More stuff about this car, some other cars, see my website wheelsandmotors.com. Thank you for watching.